Great.
Great, thank you.
Cool. Hi everyone, I'm Sophie from Smedvig Capital. Smedvig are a London-based VC investing in B2B tech companies at Series A and B across the UK, Nordics and Netherlands. I guess for a Series A fund, we keep a pretty small portfolio. We have 16 companies in our portfolio at the moment, and that really lends itself to the model that we have as a fund, in that we look to be a really supportive partner to the teams that we back. So the investment team, we spend on average about half of our time every day working directly with the teams we back on kind of key projects that they need a hand with, anything from sort of route to market, pricing, hiring strategy, and really being that extra pair of hands wherever you need it. I guess the other thing worth mentioning about us as a fund is that we have a single investor ourselves, the Smedvig family. So we are a VC, not a family office, but we do have that support and have been working with them for 26 years. So it means we can just be really flexible partners to the companies we back. I've been at the fund for about 7.5 years now. My role has changed a lot during that time, but current format is head of marketing and founder network. So what does that mean? It means marketing for the fund, supporting our portfolio companies with some of that marketing, heading up everything to do with platform. So that goes hand in hand with our kind of supporting the teams we back element, kind of building out functional groups. And then lastly, founder network, which is going out and meeting great founders, inspiring companies earlier than that Series A stage that we'd look to invest at, and really building relationships for the long term with them. That's whistle stop. Very happy to answer any questions and look forward to hearing pitches.
Great. If anybody does have any specific questions before we jump into the pitches, feel free to post those questions into the chat and we can cover them. If you do want to pitch, use the raise hand function now, and we're just going to get the ball rolling. You can bring up your slide deck if you want to, but you absolutely don't have to. If you just want to do 1 to 2 minute elevator pitch, that's fine as well. Get some feedback from Sophie. So questions into the chat, and if you want to pitch, raise your hand. Chrissy, yes, I can see your virtual hand raised.
Yes, I have a question before I pitch.
Okay.
How do you want it? 1 minute? How short, or it's not time bound?
Yeah, 1 to 2 minutes. You can go through a deck, or you can just elevator pitch style, but a couple of minutes would be great.
Okay. Yes. So Starlix is a compliance and payment platform solving for the challenges in cross-border payments and compliance, and it enables payment and financial institutions, including electronic money institutions, to send payments cross-border by demonstrating and proving that they meet compliance requirements. And this is done by embedding into the payment information the compliance data and documentation of the involved parties in the payment chain. We are a company that we're also moving into the banking as a service sector by offering a two-tiered platform to enable financial institutions to onboard their clients, and enabling their clients to board their clients too. And that means tapping into the banking as a service market, which is a growing market at 20% approximately, and estimated to grow to 80 or more billion dollars in the next few years. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Chrissy. I guess my first initial question, and this may be something that you've thought about at the moment, but I guess we see quite a lot going on in the compliance space at the moment, and quite a lot going on in the banking as a service space. Where do you see your real, I guess, your niche, your differentiation within the market?
Yes, so currently compliance companies do a lot on KYC, know your customer, ID verification, adverse media checks. They embed AI into their systems, as well as they do transaction monitoring and also KYB, know your business. But it stops there. And that means for a company or a financial institution, they can only check their clients. And if possible, they can then, it's more prominent now, they can use APIs and transfer that data to another institution. Now, what we do is we give a portal to these companies, like banks, who have agreements to with institutions who provide banking as a service. So we can give a portal either to the bank to onboard their banking as a service companies that provide services to their clients, or we can give a portal to the banking as a service companies. They enable to onboard their clients, and then their clients can onboard their own clients. So it's two-tiered. And they have the supervision element because it's on a platform. They can securely share data. They have visibility, the financial institutions or the banking as a service companies, to the end user. And so it's more of so far there is no portal that can go through different tiers and levels. And on top of that, we treat compliance as part of payment. So we embed this compliance information into payment information, whereas now compliance sits in one area and payment sits in another area. And when a payment or transaction takes place, they want to do enhanced due diligence or understand where this payment is sourced, or where the funds are sourced, or what's this payment about. They have to then take the payment and go to the compliance department to do further investigation. But we embed this automatically into the payment information, so we enhance this proposition.
Okay, great. So just from a kind of, I guess, linking that to a pitching and sort of brand perspective, if I had to say to you, can you sum up to me in one sentence the problem that you're solving and the solution you're solving it with?
Yes, it's about end-to-end compliance transparency.
Okay, and so the problem is transparency within the market.
Yes, lack of transparency, lack of visibility of lack of visibility of the parties involved in a chain of a transaction or a service. And we solve for this lack of transparency. We deliver end-to-end transparency.
Okay. I think it's really, I always find it really, really helpful when founders start with something like that, just a very clear one-line summary of sort of, this is the problem and this is the solution. I think it's really easy now, especially, you know, when you kind of look at pitch decks and you look at websites, you kind of can spend quite a lot of time trying to work out what exactly the company does. But if you've got it in that nutshell, you know, that one sentence, this is the problem and this is why this is what we're solving and this is the solution, then that just straight away starts you on a really strong foot. You're like, okay, I know what you do, and that just opens up the conversation.
So you mean saying like, the problem is lack of transparency and we solve for end-to-end compliance transparency?
Yeah, and then that's like I've got a good idea instantly on what it is that you're solving, and then obviously we can dive into other questions.
Okay, that's good. I can say yes, effectively that's what we do.
Great.
Cool, thank you. If anybody else is up for pitching live, do raise your hand. And in the meantime, we'll just run through some of the questions that came in via the chat. So Jin, you've got 2 questions. So just if you had to say from your perspective, if you had 8-10 slides, what do you absolutely have to include in a deck? And then I guess I'll ask Jin's other question because it's kind of related. If you then like bring it back at the end and you're just summarizing everything, the key points that you should mention as a founder that an investor would want to keep in their mind to be those takeaways.
Yeah. So I've actually, interestingly enough, just finished co-writing a piece of content on what should be included in a pitch deck, which should be going out next week. So I can definitely share that with the network. So I think, again, as I was just saying with Chrissy, first and foremost is this is the problem and this is the solution. That's got to be kind of where you start, I think. I guess it depends on what stage you are with the pitch deck, but things that definitely need to be included is you've got the problem, you've got the solution, you've got the ICP, the ideal customer profile. What is that core group of customers that you're solving that problem for? And if you've thought about segmentation, then definitely kind of how you segment those customer profiles. Obviously, market size. Want to see that you've thought about the market and how you view your market. Obviously, there's generally much larger markets that you can then kind of segment into your kind of core niche. So if you can see that visually, that's always helpful. I think at this stage, I think that there's so many great ideas and companies that are being born. I think it's really all about differentiation. I want to know really clearly why you're different to all of your competitors. And then obviously that ties into how do you see your competitive landscape. And then I think it's always helpful, it doesn't matter where you are in terms of whether you're pre-revenue or you kind of just started generating revenue, it's always helpful to see how you're going to monetize the business. So the business model, and if you've got unit economics, including them is always helpful, kind of depending on how far down the line you are. Some growth metrics is a good thing to see. And then I think, especially for us at Smedvig, it's all about relationships and people. So kind of really want to know about your team and you and your background and why you're the right people to solve this problem. And if you're thinking about fundraising, then obviously always keen to kind of hear about those future plans. And I think the main thing in a pitch is, it's, creating these businesses takes so much time and effort, and it's such an exciting thing. We want to get excited too about it. So when you come in and you see a founder that's really passionate and really excited about their business, that is also a massive kind of plus in a pitch. I think does that answer, I think.
Yeah, I think so. If you've got any follow-up questions, then feel free to add them into the chat. And then when you do publish that piece, Sophie, send it on to us and we can pass it to everyone in the cohort. Okay. I know that we've got another question from Sarah. What we'll do is we'll get Jodie. Do you want to take yourself off mute and pitch first, and then we'll go back to Sarah's question?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Great.
Good morning, everybody. Well, good afternoon, I guess, to you guys. Okay, so I'm Jodie Frank. I'm the founder of Culinare. It's the first CRM platform for the farm-to-home table market. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're targeting farmers, the farm-to-home table market, which includes 3 entities: the farmer's market, the farmer, and the home cook. The issue that we're solving is that when people cook with local and seasoned ingredients, it comes with a big learning curve. This is also a generational trend. So in decades before, generations before, people would cook, it was a chore, and we kind of got away from using whole local foods. We used a lot of packaged goods. So the Gen Zs and millennials are really interested in buying from farmers directly, and they're going to farmers markets and they're buying through CSAs, which is community supported agriculture. It's like a Stitch Fix for food, if you will. You subscribe to the farm, you get a weekly share. But when we do this, they don't know what to do with the ingredients. They need help and advice, and the available tools don't work. And the farmer and the farmer's market sees a 50% churn year over year. And this has been well documented. What Culinare is a CRM platform for farmers and farmers markets to support and stay top of mind of their customers, so that those customers can learn how to use whole fresh ingredients, create community around it so they can help each other, which also builds, it's been well documented, the community builds, stickiness for a business, including a farm. And so we are also offering content and support. We've got recipe creators involved in the mix. And then we improve that back office, because the issue for the customer is not knowing what to do with the ingredients. The issue with the farmer and the market is they don't have the right tools to use to make this happen. So the farmers in the market, the farmers in market experience, they subscribe, they invite their customers. This is really a retention strategy up front. Eventually it'll be acquisition. They post recipes and updates, and then they build their community and to create this ecosystem. This is a huge market. It's 70 billion in the US alone, with 2 million farms who sell directly to 96 million households through one of 3 or 4 channels. And if to give it context, it's the same size as online grocery. The existing software does not work for this industry because it's not designed for selling food or cooking. And really what they need is that content, the community, the customer service, and communication. Am I out of time? Oh, I heard. Okay, so what we've done, I started as a to build a recipe app because I wanted to solve this craziness of trying to put food on the table. I never knew what I was going to make. I never had the right ingredients, and that's where we started with Culinary. We pivoted and validated the market. We pivoted for multiple reasons. One, we launched in 2020. Two, we recognized an opportunity with farmers because we all buy from farmers. And so we validated opportunity and built the product. Today, we're getting early traction. We're refining the product because, like we're always advised as startups, put an ugly product out and see what happens. And now we're realizing some things that we need to create, to fix and change and modify. And the way we're doing is we're doing inbound marketing. We're going to farm shows, farm association trade shows. I'm speaking at a lot of conferences in the spring. And we're working on building in product-led growth referrals and trying to build up that community engagement. Our revenue model is to capture 60,000 farms within 5 to 7 years, which is 3% of the US TAM. Our target income per farm will be, or revenue per farm will be $1,500, and that's going to be a blend of their subscription and ways that we are going to, and the home cooks, their customers will be monetized as well. We're targeting $35 per user per year through advertising and affiliate sales. So it's a big opportunity. Within 5 to 7 years, we're really confident that if we get the right team behind this, we can get to 90 million ARR. Right now, we have about 10 farm customers. We have 7 farmers markets. We've got thousands of people engaged on the platform. We've got some referral agreements in place, and I have a typo. We have 1,900 installs, about 35% user retention, but I have to be honest, it's not as frequent as we'd like, and that's something we need to work on. But we do have a 4.9 App Store rating. And I jumped ahead on before, so I'll skip this slide, but we launched the app, we pivoted to the ag tech. We're raising 600,000 now. We have our first subscription sales. We've got the referral partners. We need to get some key hires to really make this thing take off. And then next year, we'll raise our seed round. We'll work to get that first 1,000 customers, develop those strategic partnerships. But our big vision in the future is to be Spotify for food and to transform the way people buy food and find food. Farmers love us. We've got ambassadors we're working with. We're getting recognition from outside. We were part of the product award on the same list with Calm and Slack. We've got the first, we were on top 21 startups of 21 by Prepare for VC and part of the Smart Kitchen Summit last year. I'm the founder. I've got a boatload of experience in B2B sales with 3M. I had a previous startup that was a small lifestyle business. I've been in pharmaceuticals. I've taught in academics. My backend developer is a genius at backend development and databases. He's worked for Penn State, Highmark, AI, Audacious Industries, and then Salorm he's an equity holder. Salorm is out of Ghana. He's a front-end developer that works really well with Mike, and he's really good with the UX, UI, and the front end. So that's right. That's what we're working on. It's a really exciting opportunity because not only can we make a lot of money, but by solving this problem, we can help shift the food supply chain to be more local, which impacts both food deserts and reducing them, and also impacts climate change because sustainable farms, which is what our primary customer, they really have an impact on our climate. So that's, I hope you're excited and you want to join us or learn more.
Great, thanks, Jodie. That was really, really interesting pitch. Firstly, just first comment is the deck is really clear, and that's great. That's a really strong positive. As I said earlier, it's so often you get such overcrowded decks, and you really just want everything to be really simply laid out, and you want to be able to review the deck, but like really listen to the person talking, because it's obviously it's the company, but it's the founders that we're backing, right? So that was a definite strong, really nice deck. Just so I understand, and I guess the only thing that maybe perhaps wasn't completely clear, you talking about downloads on of the app. So is it B2B to C, as in B2B to the farmers, to the customers? So as a consumer, the way that you're reaching the end consumer at the moment is through the recommendations of the farmers saying you need to join the app. Will you be doing, I guess, direct to consumer marketing targeting as well further down the line?
Yes, and we started as a consumer app. So
Okay.
we started there and then we pivoted. So we have both going at the same time, but we're really focusing on the farmers and having them use Culinary as a retention platform. But then, yes, as we grow and become more of a real strong entity in the market, then of course we'll reach out and try to bring more consumers on to help grow the farmers' customer base.
Great. And so I guess it's as with anything that is ultimately consumer facing at the end, right? The brand has to be really, really strong to kind of get you to entice you to A, to sort of download it, and B, to keep engaged with it. What's your plans on brand and really building that out and creating a strong?
Good question. I don't have the answer to that. I am working with there's a company, Growth Velocity. He helped Jason Calacanis' startup. He has an agency now, and they're going to be helping me this week with that. But yeah, that's something that I'm more of a B2B salesperson. And so I know strategy and I know marketing, but I haven't actually executed on it. So I need help with that. That's part of the reason we're raising, is we can bring people like that on.
Great. No, I think, as I said, the deck and the pitch is very strong. It's the brand thing. I'd love to see where that goes kind of moving forward. And I think that was really, for me, that was the only kind of real thing sort of that was missing. I think a little bit more context on competitors would be helpful. Just in terms of, obviously you kind of touched upon a few of them, but kind of, I guess, a bit more detail on what they're doing and why you're different would be helpful.
So right now the farmers are using, Google for recipes, and they're using MailChimp and Wix. There's really no direct competitor in this space. Yeah.
Great. And I guess just the one final other piece, and it's something that we've mentioned quite a bit internally, I think, but externally as well in our content, is we get a lot of founders saying that our company is the Airbnb for X, or the Uber for Y, which is I guess it's a good reference point. But for us, I think I don't think we need that. I don't feel like that adds value. Like the ideas and the companies that we see, the pitches and the founders are so kind of validated in their own right that I don't think you need to say that.
Did I say it?
You said the Spotify for food.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't think that's needed.
Okay.
That's just a very small point, and it might be that other investors like that, but for us, it's kind of, we don't want to know about Uber and Spotify in your pitch deck. We want to know about you and your company, and that comes across really well without that. And it's tiny, but just a very small point.
Thank you.
All right, shall we move to the next one? Nice job, Jody.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Kimberly. Actually, I'll ask a quick question. Yeah, okay, we'll do Kimberly, and then we'll do some more questions from the chat.
Great.
Kimberly, do you want to hop on screen share?
Yeah, please.
All right.
Second. Just making sure my millions of tabs aren't there. Awesome. Cool. Fantastic. Can we see this?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Cool. Brilliant. Cool. So my name's Kimmy Dixon. I'm the founder of a platform called Hypertribe, and I've got 15 years experience in the industry. My first job was with Simon Cowell, and over the last 2 years, I've spoken to about 2,000 musicians independently to build the platform Hypertribe. So we help independent music creators educate, grow, and monetize using AI and tech. So the reason why we do it is because there's 1% of musicians that earn over $15,000 per year. And we want to change that. And that's because the industry, there's lack of support and insight. The industry is also monopolistic, has like some key major players that are gatekeepers. And also there's a massive problem with inefficient monetization for musicians as well. So Hypertribe is a data-driven platform that unlocks the potential for 99% of musicians. And our way in which we deal with that is building a bespoke learning journey for every single artist, regardless of genre and location. That's over 25 million artists that we can obviously we can help, and we can help them obviously way at scale. So Hypertribe creates this personal journey by educating through mentoring, peer-to-peer learning, and also providing resources at the right time in their career, at the right in their journey as well, and also helps them grow through things like being able to find their specific audience at a low-cost solution, and being able to have growth campaigns and strategies that can be served at the right time when they're ready for it. We also help monetize their songs and their IP, and also help them with brand placements and monetizing their fan base too. So Hypertribe is already live as an online platform and also an application. And today we are already educating 5,000 musicians as an active online community, and we are also already monetizing with deals with international brands and also through subscriptions for our members. Our educational side looks a little bit like this. We have inspirational peer-to-peer stories that are being shared in the network. Also, people are able to find people across the globe to be able to understand, if someone can help them with a particular track, and also messaging as well on the platform and resources. We're also monetizing through brand partnerships with access to talent for brands like Kurt Geiger, Soho House, DistroKid, who we also worked with as paid partnerships. And these are also brands that we've already worked with and are continuing to work with. So we make money through subscriptions, as I said, at a quarterly rate of $150 a quarter for musicians and businesses. We have advertising and access to talent from anything from $100 to up to a contract. In the background, we're also building a lucrative catalog of songs, which is something that's a big trend in the music industry. On average, there's 105 songs per average in an artist's career, and asset management firms like BlackRock and Blackstone are buying hundreds of millions of pounds. At Hypertribe, we are currently signing songs earlier and at scale, and each song, every time it's licensed, can earn anything from £1,000 to £60,000. We're a team that's already delivering, that has experience. We've got Grammy-nominated artists that advise us, as well as people who've already bought and sold catalogs of songs, as well as produced their own. And our 5,000 users really took off this year because of the partnerships that we've made in music. The average value that's generated from a paid user is $1,000 per annum. And so based on that, we've been able to predict in terms of revenues and our market size. Obviously, with 25 million artists, if we help the whole market, we've been making 25 billion. And if we converted just the users that we have at the moment to all paid members, we'd be making 5 million. And there's £1 billion market in terms of 4% conversion. Now is the time, because the industry is growing quicker now than ever. Goldman Sachs has basically upped their prediction about how quickly the music market is growing. And we see that 2030 is something that we want to be ready for. Our competition, so we have everything from music schools to obviously the major labels who sit at both opposite ends of the spectrum. And we've also got music courses in the middle. The difference is with Hypertribe, there is a massive gap in the leap between coming out of music school and going into, let's say, major labels that only work with the 1% of musicians. But we also helping people in a bespoke learning way. So we're actually developing around them based on their needs and a holistic approach. So yeah, music schools and labels do not support all talent. Our major advantage is that we have patentable methods and also tech, and we're also growing 100,000 data points that we've collected on the artist development journey, which is one of the biggest catalogs of data out there already. We also own our IP of established library and songs already, and we also have a test base of 5,000 to work with. And as we grow, because our tech is being trained, become more competitive as we grow, and more insights and data mean that we can have more accurate, personalized methods as we grow as well. So this is a little bit about our traction today. Obviously, we've had some PR, we've had some press, we've also had some really partnerships, and we've also been able to test our pricing and launch an MVP of our community. And we've also been able to understand how to generate leads very quickly. Our roadmap for the next few years, we obviously that we've developed into more tech development that's more personal to us. At the moment, we're using third-party tech, and then we want to reiterate this and scale up quite quickly. In terms of our go-to-market strategy, we are looking for businesses that are obviously consumer, looking at working with music and working in music to help with things like sponsored content as well as advertising, and being able to advertise specifically to musicians. In terms of B2C, we are working with developing musicians aged 18 to 35 who are independent, and we find a lot of those through obviously our partnership, through mentoring projects as well to generate leads, and then also things like open mics, music schools, and industry influence leveraging already. Our use of funds for our pre-seed round, we want to invest in the product in terms of development, as well as user acquisition, partnership development, and finally working capital. Thank you for listening.
Great, thanks, Kimberly. Another really clear pitch deck, which is really great and really detailed as well. It's often difficult to get the balance between the right detail and still being clear and visually kind of stimulating, which that was. So that's great. I think the problem that you're solving, I can definitely see. So I come from a music background as well. My degrees are music, so I always am very excited to see music tech businesses coming through. I guess. First question is, how are you attracting, I mean, I think I know the answer to this, how are you attracting talent and customers in terms of the talent? Like, are you currently kind of doing paid marketing? Is it all kind of through partnerships? How are you getting the artists on board at the moment?
So we have a Spotify playlist subscriber list, sorry, we have a playlist of 9,000 subscribers on our on Spotify for a start, which is a very good kind of steady lead generation tool for us, like as a whole. But then we have partnerships too. That, for example, the one with DistroKid. DistroKid is the biggest distributor of independent artists in the world. 2 million people on their platform. So they did a sponsorship project so that they can introduce products to our artists and as a test bed. And in return, they promoted us to their network. And so obviously that really helped. A mentoring project around, framed it around distribution, because customers don't like a hard sell. So being able to frame products in terms of advertising them to artists that obviously will help the artist. It's about being able to be able to, you know, create educational experiences that offer a soft sell. So that was a massive uptake in terms of our subscribers as well. And we've just launched one last week with Ableton, which is one of the big providers in the world as well.
Great. And I guess on the flip side, on the other side, I guess a little bit more information on how you're kind of creating the educational journey in terms of content and mentors. How do you attract mentors, and what sort of content are you creating? You know, is it sort of, how do you deliver that content?
So actually, one of our biggest pieces of content actually doesn't necessarily always come from the mentors. That actually comes from people inside the community themselves. If you think about an artist's journey, they really people want to learn how musicians learn. Obviously, they music in which they learn, that we did a whole load of different surveys on, was actually they learn from each other. So, you know, you go to and ask them, hey, who's the best promoter? How did you get there? Who are the producers? We've actually created a lot in terms of like mentorship, peer-to-peer mentorship, which is really, really important. So being able to create, for example, our members' stories has actually been a really, really important part of their learning journey. In addition to that, obviously, we have people like Trey Jean-Marie, who had the #2 album only a few months ago with Mabel, and we've got Kelly Lee, who's Grammy-nominated artist. You probably know her songs and stuff like that, and probably not her name, but you definitely know her songs. And so they've been really, really supportive in being able to push a lot of different types of content. But we did a really nice mentorship project around women in music in particular. It's a big problem in the music industry. 72% of our community is female, which is a big plus for us, because there's a lot of talent that needs to be unearthed. And so when we basically approach these artists, like people like Joy Crooks, who, you know, just won the Mercury Prize, we said, you know, we're helping women in music to learn a little bit more and get into the industry. And they were like, yeah, sign me up. That was it. Ask the question, and they want to help. You know, they've already made it in their career. They want to give back at this point. So that's how we onboard.
Great. And I guess just one last question from me is just around, you mentioned about developing your own tech stack. I guess the kind of question at the moment is how much of it is driven by AI kind of at the moment, and kind of how much is AI sort of in the future plans, and if it's being used now, kind of what's the crux of the AI element at the moment?
So at the moment, what we're finding, we haven't developed any tech. This is obviously where we want to raise, and we want to make sure we put the tech in. But what we have done is we've spoken to a lot of different people in terms of developers, all the way through to AI specialists and also data analysts as well, about the amount of data that we've got. What they've said is that we are kind of repeatedly, for example, everything from social media strategy, campaign strategy, based on the genre, location, and the stage at which the artists. We're repeating a lot of things, and as we start to figure those things out, as we have figured those things out through a whole load of different surveys, we want to be able to basically generate timelines, habit formation. So for example, nudges on things as basic as, you know, posting to social media, being able to organize their own strategy around their release through the click of a button. And so we envision that whole learning journey, and being able to serve content at the right time in the right place, pitched at the right level, is a really, really important part of an artist's journey. So that's what we want to kind of develop into AI.
Well, thanks. I thought that was really, really great pitch.
Awesome.
Thanks,
And
Kimberly.
any bad points, because it'd be really helpful just to have like any critique as well. So I got a couple of comments. So
Sorry, you cut out then. I didn't quite any
critique. Yeah, I'm just trying to like sharpen it a little bit more as well. Like it kind of, and if there's anything that kind of didn't make sense. I know that someone has said, obviously, industry. I should probably say, yeah, music industry rather than just industry.
Yeah. I think the questions, that the bits that weren't clear for me were the three parts that I asked questions on. So I think if those are kind of the three things that, if I don't think they necessarily need to be included explicitly in the deck, but maybe they need to be just touched upon as you're talking. I think those were the three things that I thought were the instant questions I had that weren't answered in your pitch.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
All right. Okay, so Mindy, you'll go next, but we're going to take a quick question from the chat. Sarah asked, where was it? I just scrolled past it. Okay, Sarah asked, is a personal story important, or can you sacrifice? Okay, the question on the chat doesn't quite make sense. I think she's asking, is a personal story the best way to open a pitch, and is it worth cutting down on like the meat of your pitch to talk about the personal story?
Yeah, I think it really depends how long you have in the first instance. So whenever I have an intro, if I've received a pitch deck and I set up an introduction call, I always give half an hour. That's sort of just as a base, because usually this is sort of, maybe companies are too early for us. And the first thing I always ask is kind of, what's your background and why are you the right person to build this? So if in a half an hour situation, I think keep that in. You know, you're the people that the investors are backing. We want to know why you're the right person to do this. If you've literally got, you know, like 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes, you know, I think you do need to say, you know, give like the one-liner on you, your context in the industry, and why you can solve this problem. Like if you can just keep it down literally 2 or 3 sentences, so maybe like 20 seconds. I know that that's quite hard. I think we do need to know why you're the right person to do this. Yeah.
Cool, perfect. I think she just hopped off like right before I asked the question, so we'll have to message her this answer afterwards.
No, I heard it. I stayed on for
Oh,
it,
you
so
did?
thank you
Oh,
very much,
perfect.
but I do have
Okay.
to hop off now. Thanks so much, Sophie.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, Mindy, over to you. You're on mute, by the way.
Is my screen visible?
Yes,
Yeah,
can see the
perfect.
screen.
Fantastic, thank you. Hi Sophie, thank you very much for offering, letting us use you as a guinea pig for this. So thank you so much. Great. I don't know if my internet connection is slightly giving up, so if I get too incomprehensible, I'll just stop. So my name is Mindy Sawney, and I am co-founder of carestockroom.com. We are the marketplace and only one-stop shop for care SMEs to buy better and to do better business. Our mission is really quite simple. So we want to save social care SMEs time and money so that they can care more. So social care, when I'm talking about social care, just to clarify, I'm talking about care that's provided to people in their homes and also care homes. So it's that kind of professional provision of care. And SMEs are the primary providers of that care. And by and large, they overpay by about 30% for everything that they buy. And they also spend a huge amount of time trying to find what they need. If we could help them make those savings, it would result in about 22,000 extra care workers. So it could make a really significant difference to the care sector. Marketplaces are, of course, two-sided, so both buyers and sellers are in pain. So for a buyer, if you're a care SME, first of all, you need to trawl around at least 5 different suppliers to find what you need. And when you do find it, they don't have it in stock. And then you are really plagued by these questions. Have I really got a fair price? I don't really know how to do tendering. Like, I know how to provide really great care, but I'm not sure that I'm business savvy enough to get the right price. And also a lot of complaints about the suppliers they do have. So they've tied me in, but now they're putting up the prices now that I don't have any option. And that really resonates for me. So I was previously chairman of a small group of care homes. So this really was our experience as we took that small business from the point of collapse to a sort of profitable basis. From the seller side, sellers also feel a lot of pain. So their primary route to market to these customers is through wholesalers. And they take a lot of margin. It's not really clear what value they're bringing. And also, I don't have very much control if I'm a seller on the range of products that they take and my brand. But really, how do I find these customers? It's very fragmented. How do I get a reasonable CPA? And Amazon, you know, is not very straightforward. So we can say a bit more about that. And my co-founder, Leslie, was previously a wholesaler. So we have some insight into what it's like from that side of the deal. So the Care Stockroom solution allows us as a marketplace to provide the full product assortment. It allows us to offer multiple sellers, therefore giving you stock security. We are able to offer market pricing, and we don't ask you to give us a contract. We also will be creating a one-stop shop, so that will be a services directory. So you'll be able to find the services that you need to provide efficient care. And we also have already started providing blogs where we offer peer expertise on how to raise your day rates and so on. For sellers, we allow you to sell your whole range, control your price, reduce your CPA, but also be part of a curated seller group. So when you sell on Amazon, you put in the word mask, you get 2 million results, and you're there with everybody. So we offer that kind of curated experience. In terms of market size, so on products alone in the UK, so just purely products, these businesses, care businesses, are spending about 1.76 billion a year on non-discretionary spend. So you have to have these products in order to provide safe care. And SMEs account for the lion's share of that. There are also adjacent segments that we believe this model could pivot to. So obviously there's the healthcare market outside of the NHS. There are other niche SMEs, which are similarly characterised by highly fragmented supply and demand side, and also larger social care enterprises. So we think that even just within the UK, there's an opportunity to scale our addressable market. And our preliminary investigations suggest that this is a model that we can take into Europe and beyond. We launched last year in March 2021, and it was about 4 weeks before anybody placed an order, and those were the longest 4 weeks of our lives while we were desperate for our first seller to sell something. But since then, we've had about 2,000 orders. About 44% of our revenue is from repeat business, and 70% of our business is B2B, and that is growing. We now have nearly 50 sellers, and half of those are manufacturers who really do see us as an opportunity to disintermediate wholesalers and the middleman. We have doubled our revenue from last year to this year, and we've done it all on 125k and a lot of blood, sweat, tears. I used to look young before I did this project, I can tell you. In terms of monetization, we have 4 main sources of revenue. So obviously commission on product sales, participation fees. If you are a seller, you pay to play on our platform. We also offer seller optimization services, so starting off just with being able to prepare your data for you, and also services listings fees. So we are aiming to launch a services directory as soon as we've got the investment, and that will also provide a source of funding. I'll skip over the marketing strategy. It's the stuff that you would expect, but I'm happy to delve into it a little bit more. In terms of competitors, again, I'll just skip through in the interest of time, but we were the first marketplace into this space. There have been 2 other marketplaces who have launched after us. We are the only one-stop shop. And that leads me to this slide, really, which is, this is really where we are differentiating ourselves. So the first is that we are default SME. So our focus is on small businesses. All the other players are only serving their leftovers to SMEs. They're focusing on big clients. We are a digital disruptor, so we're digital first. We're not a wholesaler trying to go digital, so that enables us to move much more quickly. We have a female focus, so the majority of senior managers in the care sector are women. Over 80% of the senior managers in this space are women, which is an unusual statistic. We are truly a one-stop shop, so you can absolutely find everything that you need. We already have 6,000 products on the site. Our competitors have 4,000, and we're aiming to have 100,000 within 5 years. Sorry, I'm just going to move everybody out of the way. The services portal is an important part of how we are intending to grow the business, and I'll say a little bit more about that next. So when we get this funding, sorry. It's frozen. Just a little bit about our growth trajectory. And again, I'm happy to come back to this, but it's probably a bit too much detail for now, along with these detailed numbers. I mentioned our team already, that we are, my co-founder was previously the MD of a wholesaler. I was previously chair of a small group of care homes. And we are using, at the moment, a platform provider in India before we go to developing our own tech stack. And in terms of what we really need the money for, so we have already been backed by Fuel Ventures, and they've given us a pre-money valuation of 2.75. We already have EIS advanced assurance. The business goals that we are trying to achieve with this investment is to increase our revenue numbers by next year and to reach break even by 2024. But the key thing that we want to do is invest in our ability to get to predictive data with our individual customers, and then for customers that look like them. So the one-stop shop allows us to combine, if you like, people's browsing history on eWiki, and I know this is not something that you like, but let me go with it. Browsing history on eWiki, their shopping history on Amazon, and then what they're looking for on Checkatrade for services. And because that's all happening on a single site, it allows us to have a predictive view of what this customer is going to need and what they're interested in. So I'm going to stop there.
Great. Thanks, Mindy. Again, another really clear pitch deck. I really particularly liked just that you started with mission. I think that's a really nice way of framing it. So that's definitely a really good kind of, I immediately know what you're doing and what you set out to do. I just think mission is a really great word as well to kind of find, rather than problem. It's like, no, we've got a mission, which is great. I guess we'd definitely be interested, I think, as we skip over this in the interest of time, to kind of learn more about marketing strategy and competition. I think those are 2 areas. I think if you've got more time in a pitch, or even if you know you've got 10 minutes, I think definitely marketing strategy you can come back to at this stage if needed. But I think competition, really do spend maybe just a little bit more time on it, just because it is, again, it links into that differentiation point, which really is the crux at this stage. We want to know why you're different to everyone else out there. So maybe a little bit more time there. I guess the question with any marketplace I always like to kind of ask is how do you plan to keep relationships on the marketplace? I think it's very easy for that in certain industries and not super familiar with the care industry. So it might be that actually a platform marketplace is what's needed, but how do you plan on making sure relationships stay sticky on the platform?
Yeah, it is a really, really good question. The way that we are doing it now is partly by having really excellent relationships with our sellers, because they know that they are getting to a group of customers that they find very difficult to access. But what we will do in the future is actually to work much more on the customer side. So the specific problems that the customer is facing. So if you're a care home operator, and I speak from experience, when you've got these different suppliers, you are managing, this sounds really trivial, but it's really totally not trivial if you're a small business. You are managing thousands of bloody invoices. Everyone is invoicing you at different times. You can't correlate what's come in with what's gone out. So one of the things that we want to develop is that ability to consolidate invoicing into one place so that you can see absolutely everything that you've bought in a single place and be able to analyze your spend. And individual sellers, wholesalers will do that for you, but on a small sample of what it is that you're buying. But because we offer the complete assortment, we're able to do that across your entire spend. So it's those kind of really understanding in an acute way what it is that causes you problems as a small business operator, which are not always financial, which are very often operational, and really developing specific solutions for that. So another example would be that if you're a domiciliary care provider, and it just comes from really knowing the business, right? But if you're a domiciliary care provider, one of the things that you will very often do is buy a piece of equipment or a disposable product, which you then charge back to the family of the person that you're caring for. So that might be incontinence pads, or it might be a wheelchair or a stroller. And that's a really big problem if you're a small business, because you have to send out the money first, and then you have to remember to claim it back, and then you have to chase the family to get the money out of them. So one of the things that we've already developed is the opportunity for the carer to place the order for that product, but we then send it. At the moment we're doing it manually, which is slightly hair-raising, but we then send that order for payment to the family, so that the carer is never having to do the outlay, doing the chasing. So it's really trying to find what are those things that really do get in the way of your day-to-day business and providing specific solutions to those.
Great. I guess just one last question is around, you mentioned obviously being a one-stop shop is sort of your point of differentiation, but then you also mentioned that in terms of kind of volume of product, that's, I guess, you're sort of ahead of your current competitors, the two marketplaces that came in later. Would you say that this is a first mover advantage play? Or do you think, how do you think about that? I guess with some things, certainly with marketplaces, it is about who can kind of reach the scale the fastest, the quickest.
Yeah, for sure we have the first mover advantage now, but we're going to run out of that road really quickly. That's why the one-stop shop aspect of it is much more important. And that's not just about having product assortment, that's also about having this advice. Because if you're a care home operator, particularly if you're a woman, you don't go to the conferences. So I go to these big care conferences. 80% of senior managers are women, but in the room, it's 80% men. So these women do not go to those events to find out how to do things. And a bit like our previous picture said, you don't meet people to ask their advice, because you're not meeting anyone, you're at home or you're in your care home. So actually providing that advice and also providing that services directory, those three things together are what will be our future advantage. And particularly we need to invest now in being able to really understand that data so that we can predict your behavior. And I think this is where it is differentiating, because it's not that we know what customers, we will know when we've got enough of them, what customers like you buy. What I will know is, because you've looked at a blog looking at digital care management systems, I know that you're going to go and buy that system, so I can serve you a number of providers who can provide that to you from our services directory. So I can predict your behaviour, not just customers like you. And that's what we really need to invest in.
Great. Brilliant. Thanks, Lindy. Really, really enjoyed the pitch.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Wonderful. Sophie, would you have a few more minutes if we tried to run through one more pitch?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, Jackie, you are the last pitch of the day.
Hi, everybody. I was expecting you to say I wasn't going. I was like, this is great. Chill. This is good. I'm going to run through it really quickly, actually, Sophie, because my goal is to figure out what's missing from this 2-3 minute pitch. You know, I struggle with like what to leave out, what to put in. So it's great to get your feedback. So I will try and whiz through it, everybody. So it will be nice and quick. Share screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so hi, everyone. I'm Jackie, the founder of Hugnote. We're actually quite a unique startup in that we originated entirely as a user need of mine when a friend had a miscarriage while I was living abroad. And I really wanted to be there to give her a hug, but I couldn't. Then a song came on the radio that brought back really happy memories of this time when we were young and carefree and had no problems. And I thought, wow, that would be amazing if it was digitally gift wrap this song and send it, that it would say everything that words couldn't. Because music is emotion, it's a powerful rekindler of memories, and it also releases the same hormones as an actual physical hug, like oxytocin and dopamine. And so this is what Hugnote does. We are the world's first messaging app for emotion. We make it really easy for you to find the perfect song for anything that you want to say. And then that song forms a soundtrack to your message, which hugely amplifies not just its meaning, but the impact on the recipient as well. And that impact is so emotional, it makes users cry. And we know this because they write to us from all over the world, telling us how, you know, it had that sort of powerful impact on them. We think it's because by using music as a language, we make it possible to communicate feelings in a way that defies global boundaries. And so much so that our bootstrapped beta has 400,000 users in 205 countries. We are an elite performer in terms of retention and engagement. We've ever improving KPIs, including our CAC. And we've won numerous awards, including from Google and Mozilla, and lots of national awards here as well. We don't fit into any neat category, so I'm not going to do that we are the whatever of something else, because like most potential unicorns, we are category creating, but we are at the intersection of a number of multi-billion euro industries, which is really, really exciting. And we have a very stellar, you know, strong strategy to ensure that we succeed. This includes having a ready to roll out music plan, for 80 million licensed tracks in key markets that's specifically tailored for our B2C revenue play, for which we have demand from both senders and recipients. There's also advertising, of course, brand partnerships. We're just our Halloween theme to say Happy Halloween with a hug, which everybody should do. Has just been sponsored by Halloween FM, for example. So there's lots of potential there as well. And then 3, our golden goose, and this is this predictable, repeatable user growth machine that piggybacks on global seasonal events like Christmas or Halloween as springboards for a viral exponential scale and ever improving KPIs. The team is myself. I'm a former journalist and also a strategist. I ran multi-million euro projects for clients like the European Commission. My sister is my co-founder, Perry. She's a really details-oriented governance expert, but she's obsessed with music, and she also has a 1-1 postgrad in tech commercialization and business admin. Our licensing guru is Cliff Louet, who was on the early licensing team for Spotify. So we're in really safe hands there. And that was the really important thing for us to figure out, was the licensing. And then we have a stellar board of advisors as well. And so we're on a mission to become Europe's first female-founded social tech unicorn, and would love your feedback on the pitch and any advice. Thanks, Sophie.
Great, thanks, Jackie. That was super efficient. Cool. I think I really like the context first. I think that's a really nice way to open a pitch and the story, and why you're, you know, exactly explaining this is the problem I had, so I made a solution, which is just great, you know. So really like that. I think kind of looking at kind of the spectrum of things I would expect to see in a pitch. Obviously, I think even being category creating, you can still talk a little bit more, just I think going slightly more, just 30 seconds more into I know you haven't got direct competitors, but where you see yourself fitting within the ecosystem would be helpful. I mean, like, being someone who completely understands that what you said, music is emotion, couldn't agree more. So I get that, but if we're looking at people that don't have that, I guess, that direct link to music every day, you might want to just scope out more where you fit and why it's needed, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I think always helpful to see just a very quick overview on monetization, kind of how, and it's obviously don't want to detract from the vision, but we do need to see that in there as well. And just, yeah, maybe just something a little more on market size. Obviously, given you know, being a social network platform, you know, it's a big market, but if we can just see that clearly, I think if you could fit those elements in, I think that the core pitch is there.
Yeah, I found before previously I tried to fit the revenue in and then having to explain it because there were so many sort of revenue streams, it was just taking too much time. But I do feel that if it's not there, people might even feel like we don't have a plan for revenue. So yeah, I've got to figure that out.
If you can do it really high, really high level, and maybe have a note and say, you know, note actually on the slide, or, you know, just say as you're talking, you know, this is really high level, very happy to delve into it, but in the interest of time.
Great. Yeah, perfect. Super. Thank you so much, Sophie. Thanks, everybody.
No, thank you, Jackie.
Not at all.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Sophie, thanks for staying a few minutes extra. These sessions are just absolutely invaluable. And it's so difficult to get honest feedback for investors outside of a pitch. So thank you for that. We'll wave goodbye to you now, and founders stick around for peer-to-peer session. But thanks, Sophie. And we can start the record.
And feel free to add me on LinkedIn or reach out, you know, if I can help with anything else.
We'll put your LinkedIn in the email we send out to everyone afterwards too. Perfect.
Perfect. Thanks,
All right,
everyone.
thank you. Bye.